27 years. Hello, good afternoon. This is Malhar Kulkarni in the live interactive session of this course, Introduction to Pāṇinian Grammar. So, there are a few questions. I would request you to pose some questions and make this session an interactive one where I can help you take forward in the learning of Pāṇinian grammar. Here are a couple of questions that are already recorded. How would this course help us to improve our skill? Well, this is a very general question, and the answer is yes, this course would help you improve your skill in the domain of Pāṇinian grammar, because this course introduces to you very basic concepts. There are certain concepts which are treated in a very innovative style, combining both traditional as well as modern education systems. An attempt is made here to combine the good points of both the systems that I have been fortunate to be a part of. That would enable the learner to improve the skill about Pāṇinian grammar. That is too specific. In general, understanding about language, some deeper concepts will be introduced, and that understanding will definitely improve. And thereby, the skill to look at language will also get enhanced. So that is the general answer to this question. Because it is a very general question, so I would like to rest here. If something more specific you want to ask, you can ask, and I can then respond to that specific point. Now let me go to the second point that we have. This is by, the earlier one was by Akash. This is by Lovely Ray Mandal. Earlier was Akash Kumar Chaudhary. So Akash, if you have some more specific points, I would be very happy to respond. I can also, in continuation to what I said to Akash, I can also say that this course will also give you a very good insight about how to approach language studies, how Pāṇini must have approached the. Now let me go to the next question raised by Lovely Ray Mandal, who has written very good comments. I'm extremely grateful to you for making this course available to us. Question: how much relevant is it that the Pāṇinian grammar is justifiably included in the early childhood education pedagogy, so that the philosophy of the grammar strengthens the educational foundation of the youth of our nation? So this is quite a lot relevant, because, so to answer your question, first of all, in one line, this is very much relevant, that Pāṇinian grammar, various reasons. Because when we teach Pāṇinian grammar, and this course probably looks at Pāṇinian grammar from a different view, different than what is being done traditionally as well as historically, we look at data and how Pāṇini must have written his grammar. That seems to be an important viewpoint we keep in mind. And so, how to analyze the data? How Pāṇini must have analyzed the linguistic data that was in front of him. The other most important feature of this course is that this course teaches how Pāṇini derives sentences. Pāṇinian grammar is the grammar of Sanskrit language, meaning thereby that it derives, it generates sentences. So how does it derive sentences? So sentential boundary is what is essential. And this is an insight that the study of Pāṇinian grammar invariably provides. So if our children get a glimpse of how to analyze language, how to formulate constituents of a given sentence, and then how to generate sentences, if they get this particular knowledge at an early period in their education, I think they will definitely get rich experience. So yes, this is very much relevant. However, this course is offered only at the, generally offered at the 4th year in IIT Bombay as an elective. So yes, Pāṇinian grammar can be included in the early childhood education as well. So abstraction as far as language is concerned, extraction as far as the constituents and the compositionality is concerned, that is very fascinating. And that will give the child a very strong base as far as the philosophy of grammar in specifics, but philosophy in general as well. Because the Indian philosophy, Indian science, is based on the methodology used by the grammarians, according to the scholars. And so this understanding of grammar will definitely boost and definitely give more insights for the students. Yeah. Thank you, Lavali Ray Mandalji. Still in lecture number 3, no much doubts currently, really like the sessions. I would request you to, however, ask doubts and be interactive. You can also post your doubts on the forum, also in the interactive sessions. And I'm trying to have more interactive sessions, which will, allow us to get several things clarified. So here are some questions. One is by Anurag Pathak. Which book you would recommend for learning Sanskrit grammar for a complete novice? So Ashtadhyayi is, I think, the book that one can take up, because even for a complete novice, yes, that's an amazing text, and there is some methodology with the help of which you can navigate yourself through this grammar. However, there are several other modern language books as well that you should take a look at, which treat grammatical themes differently than what is done in Pāṇini's grammar, where the arrangement takes the center stage and some thematic arrangement takes a little backstage. So this is about Anurag Pathakji, and there are several books written in modern languages, Indian languages, as well as non-Indian languages that can be taken, that can be really studied, which will help you gain some good ground in Sanskrit grammar. The very famous one is written by M.R. Kade, which is quite an old book but still quite relevant. And we generally also recommend Students' Guide to Sanskrit Composition. And then there are some other redactions as are mentioned in these lectures of the Sanskrit grammar, namely the Laghu Siddhanta Kaumudi, and then there is also Parama Laghu Siddhanta Kaumudi, if you want to start as a complete novice. But Ashtadhyayi is a must, I would say. I would recommend Ashtadhyayi. Namaskar, everybody. Then we have another question by Varun P. Should we know Sanskrit to learn this course? No. Straightforward answer is no. You should not know Sanskrit. I mean, if you know Sanskrit, yes, that is fine. But if you don't know Sanskrit, that is forget this background of sentence. So in this course, I am sticking to this very important background, constantly referring to it, and that is the reason why you, even if you don't know Sanskrit, if you have an urge to learn this grammar, I think you can learn quite a lot in this course. The other important part is that there is this cognitive process that is mentioned very cursorily in traditional texts, which is treated in a more detailed manner over here, which acts as a backbone of the entire process of sentence generation. And that process is a very important feature of this particular course. And you will definitely find that the description in this particular process is extracted from the understanding and the study of the texts that are composed as late as 18th century. So there is quite a lot of work in doing this, and this is a kind of right to present to you by churning this great ocean of Sanskrit grammar. So these are all basics. So if you decide to proceed further in studying Pāṇinian grammar, philosophy of language, the names of the texts that I have mentioned, like Mahabhashya or Bhartrihari, etc., if you plan to study this, then in this course, quite a lot of concepts that are relevant to study these texts, advanced level texts, and also the text written in the 17th century, 18th century, where the Navyanyaya language is used to write about grammatical thoughts, even that is introduced. So, I mean, the basic concepts, they get introduced. That would be, this course will be useful for you to also do the advanced level study of language. Okay, the next question is by Nalini Keshava Murthy. What is the difference between a verbal root and a verbal element? Okay, a verbal root is a dhatu, and a verbal element is any shabd, any verbal element. It could be any sound, any generic element. Has to be only verbal element. But when we talk about a verbal root, there we are referring to a dhatu, which refers to an action and then is giving rise to a verb. So that is the idea when we talk about a verbal root. And when we talk about a verbal element, it is just an of element in the form of a word. That is what is intended. So will we have the next question is once again by Lovely Mondal. Will we have the opportunity to take the course to its advanced level and learn further? Yes, definitely. We will have the opportunity to take the course to its advanced level and yes, and learn further. Surely. We will, we will design more courses which will be advanced level courses, and we'll introduce several other concepts, other topics. There is quite a lot. This is quite deep, and as we go deeper, as we go further, we will get more um, enriched. So we will definitely do more uh, in order to study this tradition and what it has propounded. Okay, there is there is one more question by Varun P, who says how far this course may help to read or recite Sanskrit composition like some stotras or sahasranamas. So in this course, as you have, as you must, there is one module on the process of speech production, and there we describe the features of the sounds. Each sound and its features, as described in the Pāṇinian grammar, they are all described in detail. So if you know how a particular sound is to be pronounced, what place of articulation plays an important role, and then how other sounds in combination are to be pronounced, I think your skill to read or recite a Sanskrit composition like some stotra or sahasranama will definitely improve. Okay, so if you are reading some stotra like Mahimna stotra, if you know what kind of sound is coming next, so suppose you have to say Mahi Padaghatad Vrajati Sahasa Samshayavadam Padam Vishnor Brahmyat Bhuja Pariharu Ganagraha Ganam Mohur Dyaur Dausthyam Yat Yanibhruta Jata Tadita Tata Jagadraksha Yaitvam Natasi Nanu Vamaiva Vibhuta. This is a famous verse from famous Mahimna Stotra, Shiva Mahimna Stotra. Now, if you want to read this, it is so difficult. Mohur Dyaur Dausthyam Yat Yanibhruta Jata Tadita Tata. While reciting, it becomes far more difficult. But now if you know the nature of sounds involved and you keep pronouncing each sound individually, separately, without thinking about the other sounds at that moment, and keep pronouncing each subsequent sound, and I think you will be able to pronounce the stotras because you know how each sound is to be produced. So mu, hu, then there is ra, then there is dyau, muhur dyaur, then dausthya, and so on. I mean, I just took an example of the Shiva Mahimna Stotra. Take the example of even Srimad Bhagavad Gita. There are so many verses. We tend to think that Srimad Bhagavad Gita is very simple to recite. Well, that is not the case. It's a very difficult text to recite. I mean, recite correctly in the sense, recite sounds according to the descriptions. So if you get to know the properties, the features of those sounds, you, I'm sure, will be able to pronounce those sounds quite correctly as per the descriptions. Then there is to buy a book and maybe make some notes or make some comments and so on and so forth for your own ready reference. Yes, you should buy the famous translation of Ashtadhyayi by S.C. Vasu in English. That one should buy. This is a general reference. And then there are several other translations that are available, like there is also a French translation by Louis Renaud. I don't think it is available right now to buy, but maybe there is a copy, but there are copies in the libraries. I have used a copy of this translation in Pune in some libraries, and it is available. And then there is the German translation by Otto von Bürkling, which is available, which is reprinted and published by Motilal Badansi Das. This is available. You should have it if you can read German. And then there are several translations in regional languages also. The next question is by Sheila Krishnan. Will each sutra be explained in detail and application? Yes. For example, in this course, in this introductory level course, we are dealing with the it saudhya, the markers stated in the Ashtadhyayi, in which each and every sutra is explained in detail. And so, in the advanced level course also, each and every sutra will be treated in detail and will be explained. So if you take up a sutra, there is a methodology with the help of which you can make the meaning of it. And this is explained in this particular course, with the help of which you can navigate yourself through this very, very crucial, very important text. Also, in these lectures, I have been giving you some hints about how to memorize the text. So I've given you some methods. Memorization of the 20 sutras as a unit. I've memorized this text using this method as well as the other method that I have also stated. Quite interesting methods, but the sutras will be explained. Yes. My effort here is to train you so that you will be able to make the meaning of the sutra on your own, at least some simple sutras. And in this regard, I would definitely recommend the Hindi book written by Pandit Brahmadatta Jigyasuji, Ashtadhyayi Prathama Vritti, which will be extremely useful to you because it follows certain methodology. I myself have been trained in this particular methodology where I learnt the text of Ashtadhyayi as was taught in the Arya Samaj curriculum. So I found it very, very useful and very, very enriching. So you can also take a look at it. This is published by Ramlal Kapoor Trust, Bahalgarh, Haryana. So that is a very important source you can also take a look at. I have not seen a soft copy of it, but definitely a hard copy is available. But otherwise, the text, the text of Ashtadhyayi, the Mahabhashya, the Vakyapadiya, and so on, there are so many soft copies available. Yes, there is another question by Nalini Keshava Murthy, I'm sorry. So you spoke about computational linguistics. Can you please say something more about it? Yes, occasionally I also pass some remarks when I explain certain topics. So computational linguistics is a branch of linguistics that deals with how to model the natural language and solve practical problems related to it. So for example, machine translation, information extraction, and so on. So many problems are there, so many ways in which a natural language gets processed by the machine. So there are several efforts that are going on around the globe, some insights taken from the Pāṇinian grammar, they are being implemented. And the reference I have already given, which is there on the course page also, NLP, a Pāṇinian perspective. That is a landmark publication that you should constantly refer to. There is also a soft copy of this book, which is available freely on the internet. Please refer to this book. And there are many more publications that are coming in this field, which I think you should follow. But most importantly, the kind of methodology Pāṇini has used in order to analyze the language, that is far more significant, and there are quite a lot of insights. Like for example, when we extract the constituents of sentences in the form of padas and the prakriti pratyayas from the padas, I have given you an example of sub-word level analysis, which is the current methodology of doing the machine learning techniques. Machine learning, okay, which is also known as the neural technique, and they use sub-word level matching and so on in order to fine tune the system, which produces amazing results. So thank you so much. I have Ashtadhyayi by Srimati Pushpa Dikshit. Can I use it for reference? Yes, sure. I have great respect for Mataji, and yes, you can definitely use the Ashtadhyayi book, and you can use it for reference, no question about it. But for this course, I am using one text which is Ashtadhyayi Sutra Patha, which also consists of Dhatu Patha, Gana Patha, etc. So I will be referring to that. So for this course purpose, I would request you to refer to that particular book, which I will upload. Okay, so that we do refer to one and the same source. For your own individual purposes, you may refer to the other book also, no issues. There are some differences in the text, and if you find some differences, I'll be able to tell you why those differences happen. Saurav Upadhyay says that any book is there for this course. So there is no specific book as such for this particular course, but yes, we'll be dealing with the text of Ashtadhyayi as such. And this, I have already shown the first few pages of it in the initial lectures, and this is also available online, but I will also try to upload it so that we keep referring to one common source. We also refer to this when I was part of a summer school that was very recently conducted. In the month of September 2021, it was conducted in collaboration with University of Pisa and University of Cagliari, and there we also refer to this particular text. I can also say that there are so many things that we can say about Ashtadhyayi, about Pāṇini, but I have given you some material with quite a lot of thought that went into it, and then I had to keep aside certain other elements, certain other material. For example, the tradition of Pāṇinian grammar all over India. There are so many other scholars who are teaching Pāṇinian grammar in other parts of India. I could not give the entire information to you. I had to confine to the limited information about the current part of. That's all. Also, most importantly, because this course is also dealing with the current tradition, in which the current tradition is interacting with the computer scientists and also getting insights from the learning and these interactions, and then is trying to ameliorate and trying to fill in the gaps wherever they are found. That should be an advantage. So Radhika Kamath asks, should we know the order of these sutras in Kaumudi also? Not really now. You shouldn't know. Right now it's not necessary at this level. Suffice it to have the knowledge of the sutras in the Ashtadhyayi order. When you read Kaumudi, for example, then when I teach Kaumudi, I insist on having the Ashtadhyayi text with the student. So this is my rule, that student, mama kaumudi kakshayam vinashtadhyayi pustakam naiva naiva praveshtavyam. This is the rule. Mama kaumudi kakshayam vinashtadhyayi pustakam naiva naiva praveshtavyam. Chhatra janantu sarvada. That is the rule that I have generally made. That I generally ask students to follow. So in this introductory course, you don't have to remember the number of the sutra in the Siddhanta Kaumudi. That is not required. That is the reason why if you look at the assignments ask you, are there to test how do you think about language. So Pāṇinian grammar allows you to think about language and give your judgment on the language, analyze the language. So if you have gone through the zero assignment, and if you look at the questions on the Indian national anthem, you see this is all, we have been singing this song all our life. This is our pride, this is our national anthem. But what is the meaning of it? And if asked to give the constituents of it, how would we give them? What exactly, how many words we'll be able to say these are the constituents? So this particular understanding is very crucial. This is the core of Pāṇinian grammar. If you get any linguistic symbol, you should be able to analyze that into its components or constituents and should be able to, move around, should be able to play with them, understand those. And you should be able to also generate that once again, and also similar strings. That is a core insight that I have tried to impart through this course. I'm aware that this is just a small course, and at least if you get a glimpse of it and you want to study further, then my efforts would render fruit, I consider. The the verses that I recite at the end of each even lecture, they are there for you, they are there to introduce those texts to you. And of course, you will not be tested on them, but definitely they are the beginning verses which tell you about the author, which tell you about the work. And you see, some scholars have contributed to this tradition by composing several works. So that text gets introduced to you by way of this Mangala Charana and opens a door of that particular text to you. That is my idea, and I hope you take advantage of it and try to read those texts in future. Try to develop a feeling towards that text and also read it thoroughly. What kind of studies and preparations should we do from the beginning in the perspective of certification exam? So, for example, any linguistic string will be given to you and you will be asked about something. For example, you will be asked to analyze the data. You will be asked to remember the markers and their functions. In the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, and I come from the arts background. So I have studied Pāṇinian grammar in my university education as well as the traditional education, which I have already stated in the course. So my background is not that of a computer scientist, but I must say that I have been interacting with some great computer scientists of the world, and the discussions that I have with them about what they are doing, the problems that they are solving by creating some resources, by using a particular methodology, by how they look at certain problems. How does a computer scientist look at a language problem? There are some computer scientists I know who take keen interest in linguistic phenomena. Those computer scientists are referred to as linguists. And that is something great to know. But then their approach of solving the problem is computer science oriented. But they definitely try to use the insights that are available in linguistics. So, having interacted with such great personalities like Professor Pushpak Bhattacharya in IIT Bombay, Professor Amba Kulkarni in the University of Hyderabad, and so on, Professor Gerard Huey from University of Paris, Sorbonne, and so on. After having interacted with stalwarts of these kinds, there are some insights that you gain as to how the computer scientists are looking at these phenomena, how they look at language, and more specifically towards Pāṇinian grammar. However, having said all that, the core attempt in this particular course is to present to you the Pāṇinian way, the Pāṇinian viewpoint, without getting affected by anything. Okay? So that is the attempt. There is a very good comment by Lovely Mondalji. Sir, I am extremely fascinated To realize the comprehensiveness and universality of Pāṇinian grammar that gives a scientific basis to the most unique capacity of the entire human race, that is language. Yeah, thank you for this great comment. I saw that there was one more question about object language and meta language. So in case of Damle and Rain and Martin, the meta language is also used in, so that is the point. And the question was, I have said that object language is something that is used in the telecommunication and the meta language is not. The point that I wanted to drive at is that in the meta language, because the meta language describes the object language, yes, the structure, etc., would be more or less same. There may be some differences also, but there may be some other linguistic devices which will become part of the meta language, which we never use in the object language. In the object language, the kind of compulsion that we have for communication purposes forces us to use a particular kind of language. But in the meta, so yes, Marathi or English or Hindi or German, Russian, French, etc., they could be both object language as well as meta language, and Russian and German and Marathi and Hindi and Gujarati and French. They are all used also. That is true. But the point is, when Rain and Martin writes something about object language, there are some devices that are used. Damle, for example, uses the word lakhyata, takhyata, which we never use in the object language. That was my point. In that sense, the object language and meta language differ. Also, the purpose of them is different. Object language, the purpose for object language is the communication. The purpose of meta language is to describe the object language. So this should distinguish both. That was my point. So are there any other questions, other comments? So if there are no more comments, I mean, I would request you to also ask questions and use the forum to ask questions. You can also um, yeah, post comments, give feedback for me to improve, and I welcome you all to. So if there are no other questions, yeah, one second. We'll have more questions in the subsequent weeks. Eagerly wait for the same. Yeah. Thank you, Radhika ma'am. Thank you all. And I think we can close this session and see you in the next live session. Thank you all and have a wonderful course. Yeah, there is one more comment. by Saraswati Mahantaji. I've been going through the material just now, and okay, then if there are no other comments, we let us close this session and see you again. इथे